Good morning, guys. It's Tuesday, September 19th, 2017. This is the Daily Mix TV. So it looks like you may be able to start imbibing at a Taco Bell near you, but don't expect it at the drive-thru window. The fast food chain, which already has about 6,000 locations across the United States, is planning on opening an additional 350 doors in major urban metros. Now, most of them will be serving alcohol, according to an article in Food and Wine magazine. Cities like Detroit, Pittsburgh, Nashville, and New York are all likely to get what the chain calls cantina-style locations that will showcase local artwork, feature open kitchens, and boast digital menu displays. Now, I love this because it is a hyper-localized concept for a national fast food chain. Now, they're going to be serving up a pretty wide selection of alcohol, ranging from beer and wine and sangria to slushies that are spiked with tequila, rum, and vodka. The chain is making an effort to really become more of a hip, trendy, urban concept for their restaurants. Now, we all know Taco Bell is not afraid to try new things. Think about some of their brand product integration with Frito-Lay, like Los Doritos Tacos, those kinds of things. It's incredible what they've done. Now, sure, they've had some failures, but they've primarily had a lot of successes in some of the creative implementation they've put out. Now, the question I have is life imitating art? Watch this scene and you tell us.
My reward is dinner and dancing at Taco Bell. I mean, hey, I like Mexican food, but come on.
Your tone is quasi-facetious, but you do not realize that Taco Bell was the only restaurant to survive the franchise wars.
So?
So? Now all restaurants are Taco Bell.
No way.
Now, there are already a smattering of Taco Bell locations in urban areas that offer alcohol. So they used these locations as a test. That number is about to dramatically increase given the announcement. So locations that currently are serving alcohol are in Chicago, Cleveland, San Francisco, and of course, Sin City, Las Vegas. Now, Taco Bell's plans for domination in what Sandra Bullock's character in Demolition Man called the franchise wars isn't over. The chain plans to debut at least 50 stores in New York City alone over the next 5 years. Taco Bell is notorious for doing a lot in a very short period of time. They're very smart about how they roll things out and how they do little tests here and there. They do predominantly use California as a test market. So I'm going to be curious to see how this rollout is going to work for them. But I have a feeling that life is, in fact, imitating art. Now, shares of Chipotle Mexican Grill nosedived by more than 3% yesterday as customers began trashing the burrito seller's new queso cheese topping on social media. Since the restaurant chain added queso to its menu across the U.S. last week, Twitter users have widely trashed the product, which Chipotle describes as, quote, complex and slightly spicy. It was previously tested in Colorado and Southern California. Queso served as a topping on burritos or as a side dish with chips. Now, it is the company's latest attempt to attract new customers as well as regulars who've run for the door thanks to its constant stream of foodborne illness outbreaks. We've all seen the videos and the photos, guys, like the mice falling out of the ceiling at one of their flagship locations, those kinds of things. This is just the latest in a series of PR nightmares and disasters for Chipotle, whose stock has fallen 60% since August of 2015, just before the norovirus and E. coli outbreaks at some of its outlets drove customers away in masses. Now, here's my problem with this. Chipotle knows that they're on a downscale. They're on the slide right now. Why on God's green earth would you put out such a small test? And believe me, they did a test on this, as I said earlier, in Colorado and California. Why on God's green earth would you roll this out without doing it in other markets where you've not previously done testing? Clearly, your test protocols aren't working. Everyone is trashing your new product, which is driving down your sentiment. And frankly, it's driving down your stock. So I think for Chipotle, it's time for them to wake up and smell the coffee and understand that today is a very different world than it was even just a year ago. Now, it looks like the folks at Walgreens are hell-bent to unseat CVS as the #1 name in chain drug. they're poised to revise its agreement to buy the individual Rite Aid Corporation stores, a move that may be enough to resolve some of those outstanding antitrust concerns. And we've talked about this before with respect to when the merger collapsed because the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, decided that it was too much of a monopolistic push for Walgreens. Now, they're going to buy 2,000 Rite Aid stores, and they're in the final negotiations with the FTC about this plan, and it's set to propose a modified deal that could be announced as soon as Monday, according to some sources on the street. Rite Aid shares jumped by as much as 5% on the news. Now, the deal would be a hard-won victory for Walgreens and their CEO, Stefano Pessina, who's doggedly pushed for a transaction like this. And it could clear regulatory approval finally, but they've been trying since fall of 2015. Guys, the number of stores involved in the latest iteration won't really change that much, according to those sources. Now, the FTC is nearing the end of its review of this plan, and they've got to approve it or issue what they call a second request seeking more info. A revised filing by Walgreens would basically head off an in-depth investigation, and trust me, that's a company that doesn't want an investigation, giving the FTC an additional 30 days to reach that final decision. But the government agency could act sooner if it's satisfied with this latest push, if it's resolved all of their concerns. Now, this would basically be the fourth attempt by Walgreens to win approval for this plan. And it's scary. They really want to dominate chain drug. Now, if I were Rite Aid, I would count myself lucky that Walgreens was unable to fully acquire the company. Well, right about now, you're saying, why? They don't understand local market, especially in a city like New York. Now, I'm going to use their acquisition of Duane Reade as an example. Walgreens bought Duane Reade back in 2010 for $1.1 billion. It took them over 5 years to begin integrating their systems into the New York chain in earnest. Now, when I say earnest, I mean they stuck their logo on pharmacy powered by Walgreens, those kinds of things, and they started to roll out some co-branding as well as private label. What they didn't do was completely unify planogram and rollout across Walgreens and Duane Reade simultaneously, as well as shift out the integration, back-end systems, and POS. Now, this year was the final phase, meaning 2017, when they performed a chain-wide inventory and store reset, forced planogram shift, and integration of Walgreens POS systems. Now, since then, there have been massive losses to the tune of 40% of revenue in some locations of Duane Reade, confusion by store staff due to a lack of follow-up and training, as well as a significant increase in loss prevention issues. Walgreens refuses to allow the chain to implement store security programs. It's very rare that they put an undercover or marked security guard in any of these stores. They basically take a hands-off approach to theft, the way that Best Buy did for a number of years, until they brought their LP teams back in store to stop thieves because the losses were just mounting over the top. It was crazy. Now, anyone who's in New York, despite the mayor's posting that it's the safest the city's ever been, but petty theft is way up. And I mean, I've personally been in Duane Reade's where I've seen people literally emptying shelves into their bags and walking right out the front door because the staff can't do anything about it other than call the police. So I really hope that Walgreens does the right thing and remembers the local markets are the ones that are driving their revenues. It's not just the national push, and they need to start localizing their marketing and their efforts to really create an emotional connection with their customers. CVS is somewhat decent at this. They're not great at it, but decent. Certainly more than Walgreens. And it's very strange considering that Walgreens owns one of the single largest local chains in the world, that being Duane Reade. As a follow-up to yesterday's story on the Emmy Awards, this year's telecast had the lowest viewership in their entire history, with only 11.4 million sets of eyeballs tuning in. It's sad to watch the award show circuit decline in the way it has over the last decade. The truly tragic part of this is that it was completely avoidable. All the shows had to do was adjust to current behavior patterns and get out ahead of this paradigm shift. I mean, think about this, guys. People's attention spans these days should be measured in milliseconds. That's literally the amount of time marketers have to capture their attention. There's just so much information, so much marketing, and so many different brands going after those very coveted milliseconds. So a 3-hour award show is just not going to cut it, especially for millennials and Generation Z. Now, my other issue is, frankly, and you guys know, the Daily Mix TV does not get political. But for the Emmy Awards, I mean, it was basically a Trump bash-a-thon, and there's nothing wrong with that in late night. There's also nothing wrong with the other side of the equation where, you know, the right's bashing the left. That's politics. But it doesn't belong in an award show. You know, if you want to do a stunt or something different to drive noise and gain a better foothold position, you need to go back to brass tacks and really understand what viewers want. 3 hours of self-serving speeches and those kinds of things isn't going to help. Now, in closing, I wanted to take a moment and wish my beautiful wife a very happy 14th anniversary. On September 19th, 2003, I was fortunate enough to marry my best friend, my soulmate, and the woman who made me want to be a better man. I love you, Kylie. Happy anniversary. My name is Sean Patrick Hillman. I'm the CEO of Hill Story Marketing. I'm also the editor-in-chief of the Daily Mix TV. We would love to hear from you, so please email us at thedailymixtv@gmail.com. Have a great rest of your day, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be hump day.